Welcome back to the channel everyone. Hope you guys are having great time. In this video we are going to check the concept of object oriented programming, uh, where we will create a user defined class. We'll have options as employee ID, employee name, date of joining, and we'll have two buttons. And when we add something, it will get saved inside list, and it will get displayed at the right corner. So that's what we are going to do. Yes, here we have added one thing, and when we add multiple things, so there are provision that you can create these options dynamically. So you can add these things n number of times as you want, and when you press the list button, the list will get displayed like this. Here ID, name, and date of joining is getting displayed, so you can add afterwards also. So let's add it, and then click on one date and add it, and again click on list. So this list is getting generated dynamically. So that's we have to perform in this practical. So let's open the Visual Studio and create the application as we have performed in previous practicals. So you need to create a project with some decent name, and you need to select these options. Yes, your project is created. So right click on your project name, click on add new item, and then you need to add one class. So here we will create one user defined class, name it as employee, and these classes get created. And here we need to mention the attributes, or we can say data members. So we'll write as public int employee ID, and we'll add parameters as get and set. So these methods will be used to get and set the values to this variable. Now let's add some another variable, public int, public string, your employee name, same get set. Next, public date, time, and we'll take date of joining, DOJ. Now your classes get created. So you need to build this. So build the solution. Yes, okay. So now go to the Project Explorer and add a web page. So we'll add, go to the web and web form, name it as home.aspx. So we'll give some title, we'll add some files for CSS framework like Bootstrap and JavaScript files. So I'll provide you the link in the description box from where you need to download the Bootstrap file. So let's copy CSS and JS folder. So copy these and paste it to the project. Yes, it will get added, and you need to link CSS file. So link href, and you need to click on pick URL and select CSS folder, and then bootstrap.min.css, and then type is equal to text CSS, relation is equal to style sheet, and you need to close this, and you need to add the bootstrap file. So the previous dependency file for your bootstrap.js is your jQuery file, but we are not using in this practical, so we'll add bootstrap.js only. So bootstrap will have your predefined classes for CSS, so we are going to use this in our practical, so you can read them on a bootstrap website for the documentation. So we'll use as a container, so it will act as a container box in short. Then we'll add break tag, then we will add one label, we'll add one div tag, and we'll give class as row. So if you consider the complete screen, so it will divided into number of columns. So each column has sets of standards. So first we will create our complete form in 4 column, and then for list we'll use 8th column. So here I'm adding one label, and then I'll add ASP text box, then I'll add id name, id, then run at server, that is the main attribute, and we'll give CSS class as form control. Next we'll add a break tag. Let's copy this because I want to replicate this for employee name. So let's change few things. Now here we will add date of joining, so we'll add DOJ, and instead of text box we will add the calendar control. If you are developing some commercial applications, then uh, most of developers prefers date time precurse instead of calendar control. So but for time being we'll use calendar control. So we'll give caption as DOJ, so it will add extra DOJ caption to the control. So by default the um, month we will select is current month. Now we'll add 2 buttons, ASP buttons, one for add to the list and one for display the list. We'll give CSS class as btn primary, and for list we will give class as btn warning. Yes, the major attribute that we messed up is text, which is for display text as a button, add and list. So we are done with the graphical user interface, but we will add one more label for the confirmation. Once we add the employee to the list, we'll get message as added employee added successfully. So for this we'll use CSS class as text success. You can set it dynamically, but right now I'm giving default class. and the next column will be the list. So here we will add one label only, and we will add table from code behind files to this label so that it will get displayed as a label. So here you will get to know how we can add HTML controls on the page from code behind file. Yes, we are done with the GUI part. So let's proceed for code behind file. So here we'll add on click, and we'll add one event. Similarly for getting list. Okay, so here we are creating few objects like for employee class, for static list, because here we are going to add one list which will be the option for dynamic memory allocation. So if you compare it with arrays, so you can allocate memory at runtime in arrays, but in list you can have a number of items till your memory gets completely uh, equipped. So here we have created one list. So the syntax you can note it down. So the thing we need to make is static, because we are going to initialize this list at only once, but at number of times we add employees to the list, that initialization should not be changed. So that's why we are using static. So let's create object for addition. So employee object is equal to new employee. Then we'll access the attributes like object dot employee id. So we are converting this to integer as we get the value in the text box in the form of string. So txt id dot string, sorry, txt id dot to text, sorry, txt id dot text. Same with employee name, we'll take it directly, txt employee name dot text, and last will be doj, and here we will convert it to date time. So dt join dot selected date, so whatever date we are selected, it will get assigned to this, and we will add this object to the list so that we will get first items added inside the list. So these operations will be repeated n number of times as we proceed to addition. So we'll write one message like employee added successfully. Now our duty is to get the list. So just we'll check whether we can add this or not. Yes, we'll add 101, name as Mark. I will select the today's date, add it. So it's giving message that it's added successfully. Now it's different task to get the list back to the table. So here we will create one variable. First we'll check whether list is empty or not. So if list employee dot count is greater than 0, then proceed with further operations, else give a message as label op, which is output label. as we'll give mm, no employee exist. Let's check it. We'll just write this if part and then we'll proceed further. So here we will use our for loop to iterate the list. So we'll iterate till list count, from 0 to list count. So before that we will create one string variable. So inside this string variable we will append the HTML table and we'll set this HTML value to the label output. So first we will create the table tag. So we'll add a class, and see the thing here, we are going to use double quotes inside our string. So we'll add wildcard characters, or we can say exceptional sequence. So you can add it like this, slash, and then you can add semicolon. Similarly, for closing of double quotes, then we'll create table row for table heading. Okay, so we are done with the heading part. Now we will append the string with our values. So let's create one row and let's close the same row also at the end. In between we will add table data for each and every column. So lst employee index, and we can access the values, access the attributes. So this is our first column value, second and third. So we'll change the attributes like employee name and date of joining. Let's close this tr. Yes, after this for loop we need to close the table. So html plus equal to close the table, and we will assign label up dot text is equal to html. So we'll assign the html text to the entire label. Now let's run this. Yes, we'll add employee id 101 mark, and we'll add it as 12th of July. Add, yes, successfully. 102 Steve, added successfully. Yes, we are done with this. See, but if you observe in date of joining column, these timestamps are get appended completely. So how to rectify this? So doj dot to string, in which you have two short date string. It will give you only date format. So let's repeat it. Yes, now it, you can see. date which is there in dd, mm and yyyy format.